When Steel talks, everybody listens.
When Steel Talks is very pleased to have with us today a living legend in his own right, Mr. Emmanuel Jack Riley. Welcome to the studios of When Steel Talks, Jack. It's very good to have you here. Okay, we're just going to set the scene initially by saying that you are one of the greatest known pan tuners and also a soloist in your own right, and that you'll be receiving an award at the Lincoln Center 20th of June 2004. You will be one of two honorees at the acoustic pan jazz concert, so there's quite a few things coming up for you. Welcome once more, and just tell us a bit about yourself. You know, start from the very beginning, you know, your history in pan, how you got started.
Well, in pan, that was, let me see, there were a lot of different things that happened. I was a kid, was about 3 years old. I went into a store in Trinidad. It was Marine Square at the time, and there was something like a tape playing. It was classical music, like Strauss was, things like that. And that after that, everything music. That was my first encounter with music. And anything in the line of music, I would go crazy behind it. Like then the pan now, that was more rhythm than anything else. But I used to get licks for that because I used to run away to go to hear these bands. At that time, they weren't the 55-gallon drums. At that time, there were some small, some miniature pans. They used to hold it up with one hand and play with one stick. They probably had 3 or 4 notes.
4-note pan, right?
You know. Then as the bass, they would use a biscuit drum, a biscuit container as the bass that they called bump, you know. And they didn't have no like chords and everything like that. They didn't reach to that yet.
About what year was this?
That was somewhere in the 40s. It have to be somewhere in the 40s.
And how old were you around that time?
Well, I was music about 8, 9 years old. At least when I started to play, in the first band I played with, I was about 8 years old.
What was
that was a band they called Hell's a Poppin'.
Hell's a Poppin' Steel
Port
Band?
Royal. That was the name of the band.
Hell's a Poppin' Port Royal?
Yeah. They already had the big band, the 55-gallon drums. They had about 5 notes in it. And I used to play and show the older guys how to play and everything. And that was like, actually I was living in Woodbrook. So this band was right a block away from where I live.
Gallus Street?
Not Gallus Street, McDonald Street. I used to live a block away from the band. So when I'm living in Simonson Street, sometimes they shift. They shift me from here to there because they find that I run away too much to go by the steel band. So they say, well, we go and live in Woodbrook. There's a band right there. They say, well, you gotta go St. James, Bourne Road. There's a band right there too. Sun Valley. That was before North Stars. That was before Pan and North Stars. That was the band that before North Stars there was Sun Valley. Sun Valley was always there, but North Star came from Sun Valley. And I used to run away to hear them play the instruments too. But you see, what really, I don't have time and date. I mix up everything. Everything happens so fast, it's mixed everything mixed up. I have these small pans with the big pans and everything. So I really, what I can say is, I started off with this as a popping band, and I like to play with this band until 1 year. I think it was Discovery in Trinidad. The steel bands were not allowed to play no calypso on the street. They play, but they have to play something like a march, and they have to have a wreath in front of the band, and when they reach the Victoria Square, then they're allowed to play any calypso, and that's when I heard Invaders. That's the first time I heard Invaders. I find this band was sounding so different, you know, the instruments was different and everything. So that caught me. So about that time now, a little after that, I became a teenager, and I tried to open my band. We tried to open my band. Myself and some guys, Forsyth, and some other guys. Forsyth is in London right now.
And Schneider?
And Snyder,
Mm-hmm.
Mikey.
So what was the name of the
Green
band that you
Eyes.
guys...
Green Eyes.
Green Eyes?
Yeah, that was in Gala Street.
Okay.
We got that name, there was a club a couple of blocks away from the Panyard, and the name of the club was Green Eyes. So the guy asked us to play a couple of hours for him, and we decided to name the band Green Eyes.
So when you were Invaders, you were influenced by what you heard. Did you play with them?
I couldn't get in. They wouldn't let you in the yard. Invaders guys they wouldn't let you come in the yard. They wouldn't let you. They wouldn't no little boys around.
How old were you at that time then? So you was a teenager, right?
Not yet.
Not yet. Oh, okay. So how old were you when you founded the band Green Eyes? I'm just trying to get...
That was about 15, 16, something around there. That's when we feel that we was old enough to be in Invaders, but we couldn't get Invaders, so we opened this band. And then we opened another band, we call it Sombreros. Rolf Henry was the captain, and after that, we all, somehow Invaders was falling. It was going down. We happened to get, they admitted us in the band, and well, me, I was good. I was good in the instruments. Forsyth, everybody was good, but they had something else in mind. They had other things to do. I had nothing to do but to be with, you know. So, like tuning to, we learned to tune in Green Eyes, myself and Snyder, because we would get mega wrongs. In Woodbrook, they had this trap, sewage trap we call it, and the police officers would come and with pieces of iron and punch holes in the drums, and we try to tune them back. That's how we really learned to tune. So, Mikey, he was tuning for Renegades. Renegades was in Barcelona Street, and that was single pan. At least they didn't have any double pans yet. So I used to go and fix the pans that he tuned, because I couldn't tune yet. I couldn't start from scratch and tune a pan at that time. So while I was up there, Goldie, who was the captain of Renegades, he asked me to, he said, try to make a pan from the beginning, sink it yourself, move it and tune it. So I tried it, and that's when I started to tune. That was I know that was somewhere around 1952. So like 2 years after 1954, I started taking on jobs to tune pan for bands all over Trinidad, all over Tobago. First band I tuned was 1954. It was a band in Speyside. I can't remember the name of that band, but I could remember the price of the pans at that time, because the entire band, basses, cellos, second band, guitars, tenors, everything, it came to $54. So
a lot of money in those days.
I could never forget, and the year was 1954. That's one thing I know, time and date. And then I started to tune.
And you tuned for Invaders, you tuned for the other bands as well?
Well, after some barrels, and I managed to get in Invaders, I got a little help from Emmanuel, and I learned more about the tuning. I used to tune most of the background, the basses and everything for Invaders. Then I went I tuned for Despas. After Invaders, but that was late. That was right just before I leave Trinidad. Excuse me.
What kind of music did you listen to as you were growing up? And how did that impact
All kind.
Okay. Anything that you preferred? Any particular person's music you like listening to?
No, I really like listening to everything. Jazz, classics, types of everything, classic and everything. And well, my father had a whole lot of different type of music records, so I had access to all these different type of music. So I, like, I like the pan. So anything I hear, I try it on the pan instrument. Then at some time I made a recording. It was a classic, light classic. They call it Liverstrom.
Then in Calypso tempo.
So I used to do is to listen to all players. Each player had his style. Forsyth had his style. He anything with minor keys, that's his
strong point.
There's a guy they call Emmanuel from Crossfire. He was sweet. He used to play nice notes. There's a guy Kelvin Hart. He was fast. He used to run all over that band, and he was good. Then
is this what you call Innes? Innes?
Innes. No. Innes. I don't know. But after listening to these pan players now, I used to listen to guys like there's a guy called Nev Sampson doing the trumpet for a band called Bob Wilson, I think. They were one of those big brass bands with saxophone, trombones and whatnot. And Sel Duncan was a smaller side. He had a saxophone and he was sweet on that sax. So I listened to all these musicians, and I took what they had, put it together with mine, and I decided to do something. So I chose a light classical tune, played in calypso tempo, and improvised like in jazz, and it did make a hit.
What pans did you play at that point?
Tenor. I used to play in tenor at that time. Well, the double second, Invaders didn't have double second at that time. I remember when Invaders got first introduced, Eddie first introduced the double second to Invaders. It was a guy they called Belgrave from Southern Symphony Library, and he used to play double seconds, but they used to be on a platform. He didn't have a stand. So Eddie was one of the top tuners at that time, so he brought his design for Eddie to make him a pair of double seconds. And Eddie made him, and then decided to design double seconds for Invaders. So the first carnival we came with it was four pairs. With myself, Zephyrin, a guy they called Sidney Joseph, and Clayton Green. They was in the video stands. Each second band had their own stand, so you could go where you want to go, and you could hold back and let the other guy go in front, so you wouldn't hear him. And then I started to really solo on the double second instead. It was better than the tenors.
So you prefer the double second as a pen?
Yeah.
So you're considered, one of the greatest people in terms of soloing and improvising as you play. What made you decide to branch out into that direction rather than just being one of the band members, considering not many people dared venture out as soloists at that point?
Well, that is something that's a hard question, because it's what you feel, what you hear, and you feel. That's how I felt. I feel that while you playing that tune, I should be doing something to accompany the tune, but not playing the same melody. Use the same chords, yes, but mix it up so it would sound. And that I got that by listening to all these different artists too, the jazz musicians.
Who do you listen to now in terms of pan players, if any?
Bugsy Robert.
What is the biggest difference or some of the differences that you see right now in terms of when you were playing pan and learning and honing your skills, as opposed to how people learn to play pan now?
Well, people learn to play pan now. It's a whole difference because they learn by having an arranger, and he would show them a chord, but they could only play two notes at one time because two sticks they have. But you playing two notes, and it could be more than one. It could be many different chords, but you just playing those two notes, and that's all that they learn. And they would be playing a chord, and they wouldn't know what chord it is because the arranger doesn't tell them what chord it is. So you just simply play these two notes, and you play these two notes, and very rare you find a guy would get a guy would be versatile and figure things on his own. But the majority of them, they just play what the arranger show, and they don't know nothing else beside what the arranger
without knowing the
show
name
them.
of the chords.
And that's a lot different to when we was starting to play, because we wanted to know about music. We wanted to know about music, so we used to read books, and I had a book home with a guitar. It was a guitar guitar book. I used to try the guitar and everything. So, I would see me bow these chords and everything, C major and whatnot, and then after, But I don't think that most of the players now is interested in that type of.
So you mentioned the guitar.
Yeah.
That of course would lead me to ask, so beside pan and maybe looking at the guitar, any other instruments you got in touch with, or?
Piano and everything, but piano and guitar, but that I was never taught. I never learned to play from a teacher. I would just do whatever on my own. I invent my own type of play with the wrong fingers. It doesn't make no difference. I hear something
and you got the sound out. That's the main point. Right.
I never really went to school to learn anything. The only thing I had, the guitar was, I had the book. I had the book there. I could
read the chords
and everything. But with the piano, I never had no teaching. When we had access to pianos and things like that, in 5 and 4 side in Woodbrook.
Have you ever played in like a combo setting?
I mean, with different instruments?
Yeah.
No. I can't.
When Steel Talks.
What are some of your most memorable or proudest moments in pan throughout the years?
I can't really say. They always
good stuff.
Yeah, all was nice. I would enjoy all. But like the first time I really solo for Invaders, there was a competition and I was the soloist. That time, that was the old Invaders with all the older guys who was right at the top. And as I got in there, I was a little young, very much younger, and I was 7 years younger than the whole bunch of them, And I had the solo. But those days it wasn't like you start and you have an instrument on a stand and play. You got to sit down like that, and you have the
straps around
on your knees.
On your knee.
And when time to solo, I had a stand, and that was different. I enjoyed that. It was hard. It was really hard because I am very shy. I don't know how I managed to do that, but I always remember it.
Do you miss playing now as much as you did back then? Because your time is more spent in tuning these days.
I gave up playing for tuning some years ago. I think it's around 1964.
Why did you make that decision?
I like tuning more than playing. I don't know why.
When Steel Talks.
Sometimes,
everybody listens.
You reach your peak and you see when nothing else to do. So I branched over, and I had through Rudolph Charles, he showed me a lot of things about the tuning that I didn't recognize, and then I get to like the tune, love to make the instrument because that's how I managed to like Invaders, because the tone was different, and that something that stayed with me. I would like to hear a nice tone in the instrument. I just another pan. I like to hear a different tone in the instrument, and that's what I like to work towards. So they make me love tuning more than anything else.
Do you think that enough young people or other people are interested in tuning as needs be, given the time we were in?
They should have a lot more, unless they're going to decide to make them by machine. Because there's a lot of players all over the globe, and no one tuner, a few tuners could supply all these players. So unless you have something mass production to make the instrument, you need to have a lot more. But a lot of people are not interested in it because I don't know, maybe the hard work in it, sinking the drum they don't like. That's the part that they don't like. But that could be arranged because the way how they have things now, like for instance, like how Ellie have sink his drum. You don't have to use no hammer to sink no drum again. So in the future, you should get some kind of machine
to sink the drum to maybe concentrate on the tuning.
So they wouldn't have to think about the hard work, and maybe we should get a lot more. They should get a little more interested in
actually getting the bull work done beforehand and concentrate on the tuning. Take us through the process of, what you go about still when you tune pans, in a nutshell.
Well, when I tune, every instrument I make, I discover something that I didn't know before. That's how it is. That's another thing about it. You will always find out something that you didn't do in the instrument before, and you try to correct that, and you always have something to go after.
So you get the drums, you sync them. What is the process like? I mean, when you have to make your instrument?
Well, see that.
Just an overview of it,
Yeah, as usual, you just sing the drum, and if the feelings of the steel, you could know whether the drum would be what to do with it, because it have a lot of different type of steel that you gotta tune different. You have different things you gotta do, because some steel, some drums, the steel is so nice that don't care what you do, you get a good one right away. Some is different. Some you gotta work on it, and you gotta know exactly what to do to make it, to make it perfect.
Do you tune an entire range of pans?
Yeah.
Any pan, bass, guitar, anything like that? Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you thought that people should be more interested in the actual tuning aspect. Do you have anyone who's expressed that type of interest to you? Like
no. The first thing they speak about is the 6-pound sledge, and they don't want to use it. They would say, I would want to learn to tune, but that's sinking the drum, boy. Well, get somebody to sing, and but that's what they do in Trinidad. A while now, they have people doing everything. So you have the real tuners just tuning, but I could get some people to work for me here too. But there are things that I want to do in preparing the instrument that a guy who doesn't know how to tune wouldn't know, and it's things that you can't really explain to them.
You got to get your hands in from the beginning.
So I would want to do most of this but for myself. So because after it's finished preparing and tuning now, you won't have to make no shortcut to get a note, because the guy didn't do what process you would have done.
Anything in terms of history that you would like to talk about, any experiences, anything that's pan related, anything you'd like to get out there, set the record straight, anything you'd like to share?
No, I think the records is already straight. Really, well, to talk about steel band, I spoke about playing and tuning, and there are other things about steel band too, like the fighting in those days. Like right after, around World War II, after I would say, because if you check the steel bands, the names, the bands, it's all related to World War II. Like you would have Tokyo, the Japs, Casablanca, Red Army, and everything was sort of related to World War II. And they used to fight the same way. For no reason, you would have bottles and stone throwing, and I didn't like it. Because it's music. It's music. I don't like that. But there's nothing you could do about it at that time, as a little guy or even a big guy, because once you belong to this area, that guys in the west, guys in the east, they don't pull it. So you gotta defend yourself anyway. So you would have to throw bottle and stone too. So you get involved in something that you really don't want to get involved in. But that's how it was. So that's why our parents didn't want us to get involved in the steel band, because that's what it was all about. That was what the guys. See, I think that it was founded by guys who used to hang out by the corner and throw dice and play cards and things. I think it was founded by them. So from the beginning.